I will call this meeting to order at 7:33. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustees Sue Schreisenberg. Supervisor Sue Schreisenberg.
Here.
Trustee Danielle Rubin. Trustee Kate Gazelle McNally.
Here.
And Administrator Hopkins. Madam Supervisor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we want to try to get our viewers on the screen here? Sure. I don't have our video. That's why.
We can see it now.
All right. I fixed it. All of you don't need to see how we were did our supervisors reports. Just some highlights. We will talk more about the audits in just a moment, but I do want to give an update on the Little Free Pantry project. Both Wilmette and Glencoe have decided not to participate, but Winnetka has decided to participate in the pilot program. So we will move forward with that. And the Girl Scouts are excited to help with it as well. We will see how that goes and hope that the other municipalities participate once they see that it's not a melty mess. But we actually are going to do it inside the vestibule of the library. We were requested to do a proclamation from the CAC to wish them a happy 34th anniversary. I explained that we do not do proclamations, the Child Advocacy Center, but I said I would wish them a happy 34th anniversary. So happy 31st anniversary. Yes. I don't mind people asking because then kind of it can start conversations. If we recall, the sheriff's asking us to do one was the reason why we have a lot of our partnerships to the sheriff's office. I joined the Mayor's Alliance to End Child Hunger, which allows us to have access to a lot of free resources for social media to encourage people to advocate for those who are suffering with food insecurity. And to advocate for that population in New Trier at a national and state level. So that is exciting. I participated in the, oh my gosh, what was it called? Rock the Ride gun advocacy program here in Winnetka. If you all recall, after meeting with Moms in Action, New Trier Township, we posted our crisis response resources on the website, including how to obtain a order of protection related to firearms order of protection. So that information remains on our website as a resource to the community. The Metropolitan Townships Officials of Illinois conference is coming up next week. I plan to attend at the Hanover Township if anyone wants to join me. They actually have a very exciting list of seminars going. But Metropolitan Townships is meant to be kind of the answer to the very real fact that townships are very different across the state and even across Cook County. And that those of us who have a more urban population have more similar concerns than necessarily county by county. So that they have their own lobbyists, they have their own executive director, but they are partnering with TAC this year as well. So if you'd like to come, please let me know. Unfortunately, the Intergovernmental Committee for Wilmette was moved from last week to that date. So if anyone would like to represent us there, I would very much appreciate it.
What's the date, time, and location?
That is at Malincrot on Thursday, the 28th. It's usually at 5. We will figure it out. But yes. Wonderful. We'll chat about carpools. If you recall, this topic of this year was on mental health issues. Jean participated in the smaller program of mental health providers. I participated in the stakeholder meetings, and Steve went to the initial meeting as well. So we've had coverage at each of the meetings. I reviewed the kind of outcomes from the consultants that Wilmette had hired essentially to aggregate the results from those 3 meetings. And essentially they said we should have a database of mental health resources. So I responded, New Trier has that. So we shall, which they know because we talked about it at the first 2 meetings. So we shall see what happens. I hope they didn't spend too much money on the consultants. It's a little frustrating. I think that is everything from the supervisors meeting right now. Are there any questions on that supervisors report? Fabulous. Let the record reflect that Trustee Moser is participating. All right, we're now in line for the approval of the minutes from August 8th Board of Trustees meeting. We will start just simply with a motion to approve to start discussion. We will have to, is there such a motion? Wonderful. I'll start the edits. Just as a note, it was presumed but not overtly mentioned that Trustee Cassell McNally was pursued via Zoom, but did not fit into one of the categories of exceptions to be able to vote. So while we are thankful that she gave us our update on the Monarchs and was able to, participate otherwise, she does not able to vote. Okay, just to recall that the remote policy is on our website and is the maximum amount allowed under Illinois law.
I erred because I was calling your name.
Not a big
Doing
deal.
the roll call vote.
So I've asked Clerk Coynes to place in after official business had been established. A sentence saying Trustee Cassell McNally appeared remotely but not pursuant to the remote participation policy. And where she is voted, where there was 5 ayes to do 4 ayes. And then I'm asking for another edit here in the verification of claims. We did not vote on a motion to approve Deputy Assessor Shiflett's expenses, but it would appear when it was up for verification. Okay, so I made those edits here. Are there any other edits? Oops. Got it. On that note of misspellings, we went to curriculum night and my son's name, my last name was listed as Eisenberger on his learn to write your name. And we said to him, do you know your last name? He's like, I didn't even notice. He's been sitting there for a week. Okay. The teacher was very apologetic, but it was very understandable. The kid after him was Greenberger. But not sure he did. Great. Any other edits? Hearing none. All those in favor of the approval of the minutes as edited, please say aye. All opposed? Unanimous. Clerk's report.
All right, so I just want to let you know I'm back again with more professional development. I'll be going to Effingham, Illinois, and
Exciting.
Thursday, and I've been doing other trainings, and they're so super helpful. Like Gail mentioned, the Metro, especially for clerk, we have all sorts of new trainings. The minutes policy changes. Even this one we just decided because that was my error to I was calling your name. But it's just
and that was a change from when you weren't that short period you weren't clerk. That was a change.
There you go. Always learning.
Always. Financial report, Mr. Howard. I shall make you our host.
Great. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen and we'll walk through the financial statements for the 6 months ended August 31. Again, that puts us 50% of the way through our fiscal year. In terms of property taxes, we received 1.8 million, pretty much unchanged. We're supposed to be seeing those collections now in December as the bills go out late again. But we budgeted 3.4 million, so we're at 53% under that first installment. Replacement taxes collected 75,000 there. That's at 75% already. Again, we receive that 8 times a year from the state. That's the business tax. So we should receive at least 2 more distributions through the end of the fiscal year. Interest has already beaten the budget by 4%. We do have some good news in terms of our rates with BMO. I know we discussed that at the last meeting, so we'll get into that on the investment slide. Passport fees also beat the budget. That's 67% better at 20,000 collected there. Some small other income amounts of about 2,900, all in about 1.9 million in revenue. We budgeted 3.5 million, so we're at 54%. So we scroll down then through some expenditure highlights. Again, 50% of the way through. Agency programs at 33%. Projects right now at 11. Contractual services at 43. A lot of these at or below that 50% mark. Some of the ones that are skewed higher are just smaller budgets. Financial assistance at 49%. The pantry is a little high at 87%, about 96,000 spent there of the 110,000 budgeted. Personnel at 46, elected officials 51. So all in about 1.4 million spent, 3.6 million is the budget. So we're at 38%. Look at the surplus so far to date, 520,000. Remember, we strategically planned to bring down the welfare services or GA fund balance. We're already seeing that in action at 87,000. We just want to avoid excess accumulation there. 520,000, most of that money going into the town fund. And again, we're at almost 2 million in fund balance through the first 6 months. As we look at the distribution, again, property taxes here lead the way at 94%, replacement tax 4, interest 0.9, passports 1, other income 0.2. And then as we look into the expenditure distribution, agency programs 38%, childcare 9, projects 4, contractual 6, assessor 3, building and town hall expenses 5%, financial assistance 11, pantry 7, personnel 15, elected officials about 2. Again, still you can see revenues at about the midway point. Same with expenditures. Again, revenues over expenditures. That's why we see that nice surplus to start the year. And again, you can see the 33% here across all agency programming. I'm not going to go through all the individual line accounts, but again, we've seen pretty good adherence to the budget through the first half. And again, you can see that in the high level summary. Outside of that, this is the investment sheet. Investment sheet I wanted to speak to quickly. As we did get rates back from BMO, we're going to be getting 2.5% on our checking accounts going forward and 3.5% on the money market. So both the town and GA have one of each. You can see they were at 0.89 and 1.09. Now both of those changed to 2.5 and 3.5 respectively. Again, our Schwab investments, we know what we're getting there. Those are a little bit higher as we're using that managed approach to get the best bang for the buck through Sawyer Felduto. And again, about 2 million across all cash accounts. Again, going to be earning some better interest. And so that number we're going to continue to see go up as we progress through the remaining 6 months of the fiscal year. But that concludes my presentation on the finances. I'd be happy to take any questions from the board.
Thank you. Sounds very much like an example of squeaky wheel on our BMO rates. So we will continue to squeak. And as many of you will see, we moved things around to be better representative of the buckets they were supposed to be in. So they should be more true to the budget this month. Obviously that was just a matter of, they were the same claims, but placed into a more accurate.
If they're not,
bucket.
Tim and I are still working on it. I'm still putting on my accounting back.
Yeah, but anytime you see one that you're like, oh, that doesn't make much sense, well, our next checks are going out. So as you can see, our agencies are 33.33. The next checks are going out on October 18th. Yep. at the agency breakfast / focus group. Focus group for our strategic plan. And Kate will talk more about that, but very exciting. We're making, as we had mentioned, we're having these agency checks, the working meetings within with a hefty carrot to get people to come. Yes, and food. But you can see that we have our next installation of our art up as well. So another opportunity for people to see the art from our various agencies. Are there any questions on any of the line items as well? I haven't received the new check to sign. So when I do, then I don't believe it is. Yep. Yep. Exactly. It is not on that you're being asked to sign right now. Yeah. And you will see that our childcare before and afters scholarships are in here this time around. And which are kind of broken out in Jean's report. Because it's one check per entity, they do, it looks like we're giving a real lot more to Wilmette than we are to, to Glencoe. By how many families we're using that particular entity, not by the actual scholarships. We do have more participants from Wilmette. All right. Trustee Moser? Is there a second? We will call the roll.
Supervisor Eichner,
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Moser. Trustee Giselle McNally.
Yes. You saw me do that, right? You can attest. Great. We'll pass that around. All right. We are now in line for our audit report presentation. I'm going to make Kevin our host.
Hold on. All right. How about now? Can everyone hear me? Trouble hearing you guys.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yep.
Great.
Okay.
Well, that was a simple fix. I just
Yep,
pressed
okay.
the plus.
All
Okay.
right. Okay. All right. Well, first off, thanks for having me. As we do every year, just wanted to quick go over some key points from the audit, how the audit went this year. This year, things overall field work went better than last year for sure. With Larisha and Gail being in charge of everything for the whole year, not having somebody leave right at the end of the year, things obviously went smoother. Was much easier to get info for this year. So overall, the audit went better this year. As far as a management letter for this year, so I always like to go over the management letter. There are a few things on it. I know Larisha was going to send it out to everybody. So if you have questions after I go over these things, feel free to chime in. But there's a few things on here. A couple significant deficiencies. So significant deficiencies are less than a material weakness. They're basically an issue where they potentially could cause a more significant issue, but not to the point yet where we think it's a material weakness where there could potentially be issues where a material adjustment could occur or there could be something materially wrong with the report itself. So the comments this year, one of them was related to bank reconciliation. So you guys have a couple smaller accounts for the Angel Fund and the Courier Fund. Bank recs weren't done for those until we came out for field work. So that's just more so of a a suggestion to make sure those are done throughout the year, those are reviewed and done on a timely basis. And then by the time we get out for field work in the next year's audit, those are already done. That's been taken care of already going forward. So I don't see that being an issue going forward, but that's just something that happened this year. It's only a significant deficiency just because of the small nature of the accounts themselves. The next two are related to some differences of opinion with the township assessor's office right now and some benefits that are being paid right now. The first one is related to an expense amount that got paid that isn't in line with anything that's in writing for your guys's procedures or policies right now. So there was an amount that was paid that didn't have any kind of written documentation out there for that this was acceptable. Other ones had been denied. So that is specifically related to a specific invoice. If those are going to be approved and acceptable at township assessor's office, there's certain language that needs to be written and provided to the township as far as what kind of benefits are going to be paid by the assessor's office. So it's not necessarily that it was wrong. It's more so that there's nothing in writing right now related to this, and there needs to be in order for us, because right now we have no policy to look at to make sure that that's acceptable. So that's what that one is. The next one is in relation to that overall. A couple other things that happened. A new EIN was created in order to obtain a certain insurance policy, which can cause various issues. With a different EIN, those people should technically be paid under that EIN. The government's going to be looking for 941s as far as quarterly payroll tax reports. If they're not paid under there, they're going to be you're potentially going to get notices for what's going on with these reports. Having two different essentially systems then is potentially going to cause some extra expense, as far as you're going to have two tracking methods. You're going to have payroll on one side, payroll township. These things are going to have to be combined to make sure that your guys' financial records are all set up for the township, for us when we come out to audit. Not saying that there's anything wrong with those, but it could cause some issues because obviously you're taking numbers from two different spots to combine these together into one record. The other thing that's out there is you could have some internal control issues. You're going to have two different sets of records again. You're going to have potentially two different people monitoring these things. So overall, the main thing to bring up, and this is brought up as another matter because again, it's not that there's anything being wrong. It's just another matter that, hey, the township and the assessor's office needs to be on the same page. Make sure that they're in full agreement of this. Make sure everyone's on the same page. Realize that there are some additional expenses that could come with this. So that way you don't run into issues of things being reported incorrectly and run into other issues down the road. That's what potentially could happen with this. That's what was brought to our attention during the audit. So we wanted to at least comment on it so you guys are aware of, and you could take action as far as making sure that this gets handled and everyone's on the same page. There's no issues moving forward. You're not going to have issues with audits down the road. And everything should be good. So with that, before I get into financial highlights, is there any specific questions from anybody in regards to that? I can see someone talking. I can't actually hear it though. I still can't hear.
The assessor's office set up an EIN for Len to have his choice of insurance. Yes, the assessor's office will incur additional expenses. Right. I mean, going. Right. I will defer that to the assessor's report, which is after the investment report. Because Jan can answer, I assume. Yep. Any other questions on the audit?
I'm not the right person to answer this, or Alicia or somebody else. Or maybe James actually, but the, bank reconciliation issue on a monthly basis going forward, is that something that we would do in-house, or that James, like, who does that? And yeah, I just want to make sure we get set up on like the right path going forward.
Right, James, you want to discuss?
Sure. So yeah, right now those are done kind of offline in Excel spreadsheets. So everything's, not in, like, let's say QuickBooks or an accounting program. I mean, that would be maybe a recommendation would be, why don't we try to bring these two entities into QuickBooks, and then we can do the reconciliations much easier going forward. There's not a lot of transactions. We were able to reconcile everything once we received all the bank statements and the Excel workbooks and everything. But I think going forward, the process will be much easier for the auditors, especially because we can, send them backups of QuickBooks and all the bank recs and statements. So I think that's maybe something the board can look at, is to, hey, why don't we move, both those entities into QuickBooks? We can then provide the bank recs and help to either have you do the transactional work, or we can do it when Tim's there, or do it remotely. We can definitely make that happen.
Just a note, so that was for the Angel Fund and Courier Fund.
Yeah.
That were the incomplete bank
Yeah, Diane
reconciliations.
never presented those for the audit, I don't believe, and that was the issue.
Yeah.
If you recall, the Courier Fund literally does 6 transactions
Yep.
a year, right? In, out, in, out, in. Any other questions for Kevin or James?
So that's gonna be an easy fix. The one thing that I got the EIN and situation, but we may still, that's the one that gives me heartburn.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel like we need our council to weigh in and see what exposure we have then kind of moving forward. Because I understand why it was created, but I want to clean audit. I want to know what we do to make sure that this isn't problematic for us, or honestly for the assessor's office, kind of going forward. So do we need to engage our council on this, or
We're in discussions.
Okay, so that's already in the works then to fix it. Okay,
Well, I
good.
wouldn't say fix it. You're in discussions.
With council or with okay, good. All right. All right, cool. I'm done.
I think Kevin still has a financial part of.
Yeah, I still got that. I just wanted to make sure we were
On the-
good on that. So I do have a short little rundown of the report itself and just how a couple things ended. So as far as the report itself, you guys had a clean and modified opinion. So this is the best opinion you can get. So no issues there, obviously. New accounting standards this year. Nothing that really affected you guys. GASB 87 did come into play. That's the new lease standard that requires when you have a right to use an asset. So if you lease something, some piece of equipment, in the past, they would have what they would call operating leases. You would just have a footnote disclosure about it. Now, if you have something like that, you actually need to record an asset and a liability on the books, similar to like a piece of debt if you were to buy an asset with debt. You guys didn't have anything material that fell under this. So while it was a new standard, there is a new accounting policy listed in your audit report that states how this would be treated if you did have one. Nothing actually affected you guys' financial statements. So it's really just wording in the footnotes. That's the only thing that's new that it's going to affect you. It is going to be something we look at each year. So in 3 years down the road, if something applies to this, there will be an entry made for it on the government-wide statements. Again, those are the statements that you guys don't necessarily look at on a regular basis. That's where everything gets pulled on, like your fixed assets and long-term debt, things like that. As far as specific financial highlights then, so if you guys have the report in front of you, page 13 then, The governmental funds themselves in total are up about $120,000. More specifically, the general fund is sitting at about 595K at the end of the year, which is up about 170K.
This fund,
Excuse me?
the general assistance fund.
No, just the general fund itself.
The town fund.
Yes, the general town fund. Yeah, normally we call it the general fund. But the general town fund is at 595K, up about 170K from last year, which was mainly due this year to your guys' regular increases in property taxes, while also seeing an uptick in replacement taxes. Governments across the state saw an uptick in those. That has to do with the amount that the state collects and pools and determines how much goes out to everyone. That was saw an increase across the board, so that's not out of the ordinary for anybody. Everybody saw that. But you guys had increases in both those areas, while expenditures themselves essentially remained flat in comparison to the prior year. So overall, the general town fund is in a little bit better position than it was in the prior year. It's still a little low as far as your fund balance in relation to current year expenditures. You're only at about 2.5 months. Most places we suggest 6 months as being a good bottom line number. You guys do have a little bit of a different situation and a little more flexibility with all the year-end grants that you guys do for all the program grants. Obviously, if the funds aren't there, those aren't going to be available to be made. So you guys have a little more flexibility with that being a very large chunk of your guys' expenditures each year. So it is a little skewed compared to other township type governments. The general assistance fund then is down about $50,000 then, and you're at about 2 years of expenditures in there. That is on the high end, but as James even just mentioned in his presentation, is you guys have a plan to spend that down, and that spend down is actually occurring now. So obviously you guys have a plan for that. Same thing as James said, you don't want that to get too high. That's where you're going to get property tax objections from. As far as the government-wide, like I mentioned earlier, government-wide this is for your audit report only. You guys don't look at this on a regular basis, but that's where you get to your long-term type assets, where your fixed assets come onto the books, any kind of long-term debt comes onto the books, IMRF liabilities related to the pensions come on the books. A good spot to look at for those is show where those differences are. Page 14 of the report gives you a breakdown of the differences between how the government-wide changes compared to how the fund financials change on each year. So overall, like I mentioned earlier, total governmental funds were up about $120,000. On the government-wide activity, you guys are up about $179,000. And the differences are related to that. So you have differences for things like depreciation. Depreciation isn't on your fund financial statements, but if you buy a new asset, that's considered a capital outlay on the funds. When you get to the government-wide, that increases fixed assets. Things like your pension liabilities related to IMRF. There's expenditures related to that each year. That's where these get picked up. And any contributions you make to IMRF, those are fund financial expenses, but they reduce the IMRF liability in the government-wide. So that page 14 gives you a breakdown of what those differences are, and gives you a good breakdown. It's very similar for you guys each year. Basically those three things that I mentioned, anything related to fixed assets, the IMRF liabilities, and depreciation. So overall then, that's what I usually like to go over as far as financial points. So I will open it now to any specific questions you may have on the report itself. Hey, Gail, I don't know if I am not able to hear what the trustee's saying right now, if he's asking a specific question.
Trying to- Page 13, it's talking about the town fund. I only see a total of 508. Maybe we have more than that. The town funds are
I'm sorry, I don't even see that number.
I don't know.
508-205. Yeah, that's the financial report. I think that we're looking at the audit report.
I think we figured out the problem.
Different reports.
Different report. All right, that's the next. Any other questions? I am very excited that we're at only 2 years of reserves on GA, which is a big deal for us. But as you all know, with the change in the legislation, we will be able to bring that down. So we'll be able to move up to that 6-month range on the town fund and down on our general assistance and get our house back and work in order. Very exciting. Also very exciting is we did not need an extension in our audit. So thank you, Kevin, and to your team, and to Larisha for doing a lot of heavy lifting, and to Jerome for all the minutes being timely, because it's really anything is missing, it throws everything off. So we very much appreciate it. Go team. Oh, and one thing though that Kevin did bring up was that replacement taxes in your board packet. I did put this slightly depressing sheet that we got from the state of Illinois, saying that we are anticipated to have fiscal year 2024 replacement taxes of $93,244, while FY 2023 was at $130,891. So a significant dip in those replacement taxes, which, as you mentioned, was to our benefit in the past, and we cannot hope for those this next year. I wrote them in because there was a very large Excel file attached that you had to go through. So that's why it looks like that. If you want to see everybody else's disbursements, you can look at the Excel file. That's someone's job. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Very much appreciated.
All right.
If you want to
Thank
make
you, guys.
that would be great. Or go straight to Sawyer Felderdo. Oh, they're not there.
He said that he was gonna try to get a representative to come tonight.
Should we hold on?
Not, if we don't see them by now, they might be just coming to the October meeting. He
Okay.
couldn't make it.
Okay, we'll hold on that. Unless anyone wants to take a look at it.
The
and
report is in,
in your packet.
yeah.
What was the question that you had, Trustee Moser? I was on 13. Okay, great.
That's
Yes,
as of August 31st. So every month they speak right before the board.
yes. It is nice to see that our money is working for us. Gain of 4,500 in the Angel Fund, which will go helps us with our food pantry additional purchases. While we're seeing prices go down, we're still, as you see in Brian's report, way up on our visits, and not everything. We also, with our addition of dairy and bread, some of our costs have gone up. What else? One in here. An increase in GA fund of 8,000, which we will put to good use next year, and an increase. Where's our total fund? Projected income for this quarter for town fund at about 4,000. So, making progress. Okay. Assessor's report. Assessor Church. Yes, I'm gonna. Well, she's unmuted, so
Yeah.
she can just go.
Oh, right, hang on. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm
Assessor Church.
unmuted. Can you hear me?
You're unmuted. You're great. It's perfect.
Okay. There are a couple of points. I sent the report, including second quarter stats, out to everybody this evening. Excuse me, and Jerome, that includes a copy for you for posting on the web. As you probably are all aware, we have gotten back our results from the assessor. They were sent out last Thursday, and the written notices have been arriving. And as far as we can tell, have been very few adjustments, reductions for anybody. We didn't think there would be, so it's not a surprise so far. And I'm going to, try and look at more and see if the thing is, the assessor has this way of saying, he'll say 50% of the people got reductions, let's say, but that reduction may have amounted to something like $1,000. And so it sounds good when you say, gosh, we gave out all these reductions, but then when you look at the amount of what a resident may have gained from it, they don't really feel that they got anything worth mentioning. And we've only heard from people who have had no change, which is what we were expecting, because the assessor held a hard line last year on appeals after the reassessment, and we did not expect him to change his mind on anything this year. And he hasn't. Sorry. The Board of Review has finished its work for 2022 just a couple of weeks ago at the end of August, late August anyway, so that now the business of setting the equalizer and tax rates can go forward, which makes it look as though tax bills will be coming out as we were informed about a month ago, hopefully by November 1st, with a due date of December 1st. And that's the main news on appeal and assessment fronts at the moment. Oh, well, we don't know when we'll be open yet for the Board of Review. I am hoping it'll be within this calendar year now, since they're done and we're done and moving forward. And we are having our regular luncheon on Friday. And so hopefully I will get more information then. And if there's anything worth sending out to people in advance of the next meeting, I will do so. Sorry.
I think Trustee Moser had a question.
Again, we have a chance to figure out what potential expenses going forward will be on the
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Jan, the question is with respect to the reimbursement for Len. Did you have a chance to consider or figure out what the ongoing expenses will be with respect to the new EIN number and anything else related to Len's claim?
Are you talking about the check that was the reimbursement that was approved last month?
Yes, and the new EIN that was issued so that he can choose whatever health insurance he wants.
As far as that was a one-time expense that it fell in between the cracks of after his policy was canceled and before he had coverage. And so that's a non-recurring item.
Okay.
And sorry,
we're hearing from the auditor and the financial crew that there are likely to be ongoing expenses related to the new EIN number that was issued so that Len could choose his health insurance. Can you speak to anything with respect to that?
Not now, not exactly, because I don't know what they will or might be. The only one I am aware of without figures is that Howard Simon has said that there probably will be an expense related to having to set up new payroll accounts, but I'm not entirely clear on why they need to set up a completely new system for one employee, rather than just sort of run a parallel thing, because I don't have a separate bank account after all. So the payment is still coming out of the same place, and excuse me, I have sent back yeah, no, I just do not understand how Howard Simon is proceeding on this entirely, and was not expecting. I had talked to someone last spring and had been told there would not be any extra charges. And now I'm being told there are, so I have to look into them.
Who told you there wouldn't be additional charges with respect to that?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well.
Who told you there wouldn't be additional charges?
I don't remember his name offhand. I'd have to look.
Okay.
But it was
what we're
someone.
learning is that that's not right.
Sorry?
What we've learned is that that's not correct.
Correct. But I only learned that a few weeks ago, and I have not yet sorted out the pieces because I haven't gotten specific information from Howard Simon about not only exactly what they need to do, but why they need to do it that particular way rather than a simpler, less expensive way.
Well,
So I will look into it and have it sorted by next month.
have you seen the letter from the auditors?
I'm sorry.
Were you able, did you hear the report from the auditors?
Yes, I could hear
Okay.
Kevin fine.
Okay. All right. So do you have a copy, or should we need to get you a copy of the management letter?
Are you talking about the letter that I can't pronounce the name of the company, but I didn't know it was our auditors?
Yes. Okay. So you have, yes.
Is that it? Okay.
Great.
Yeah, no, I have it.
Okay. Yes.
And I will, take care of getting Jerome any form that he needs. And Gail, I guess you and I, or else Larisha, you and I may need to sit down and talk about specifics in terms of making sure that our parallel tracks are truly parallel, because of course that has to be done properly.
Okay. I just don't want Larisha having extra work because of this.
I can't hear. I'm sorry. It's just breaking up rather badly.
Okay, I can speak to this because back in February, Howard Simon said that you needed to implement a new system similar to what we have because of the new EIN. Leonard should be being paid out of your new EIN for the assessor's office. He currently is not, meaning how I administer payroll and stuff for the employees on my end, that should be being done by you on the assessor's end now because there was a new EIN created.
Okay, then may I talk to you about exactly what that entails, because I have no idea.
Well, we have been speaking about this multiple times in email, so I don't know exactly what Howard Simon wants from me. I even did the initial legwork to tell the implementation team to call you, and it seems like nothing is getting done on one end or both ends.
I am answering questions as they arise, and I have not had a conversation with anyone else there. It has been by email. But again, my issue is I do not understand exactly what it is Howard Simon must do. I mean, I'm just not clear on what they're doing or what my role in it is, actually.
Did you
I suppose
ask
as much as
Administrator
anything.
of the payroll. You
Right.
have to be the administrator and set Leonard up as your employee. Currently, Leonard is still under my payroll and under my Howard Simon administrative portal as my employee when he shouldn't be. That's what they're saying. There has to be a differentiation because this EIN was created, which is what's causing the chaos, if that makes sense.
It makes sense from my understanding your perspective, but I don't understand what it is Howard Simon needs me to do, because they have not. For instance, I don't have any forms fill this out or anything like that. I mean, I'm just sort of going, what is it? I mean, presumably then I need to actually do something. And I haven't been told what that is.
We'll discuss this further, but these are questions I think we would have appreciated you asking before the EIN was created. And now that open enrollment is here, I would highly encourage you to go back to the original policy. Especially with our personnel file, our personnel manual being revised right now, which we will be hoping to roll out for January 1. It would be a perfect time to make things clean.
What do you mean the original policy?
Back on everybody else's policy. So if
Len
you're
had
eligible,
insurance as of 2016 that he was satisfied with.
I don't care if he's satisfied with it. That's the problem.
What?
If he
I'm
was
sorry,
under
Gail,
the
I'm sorry, I
EIN,
can't hear you.
It doesn't matter what he prefers. Our
Yeah,
own
actually it
change.
does.
It doesn't matter what he prefers. If he was paid by our EIN, he was getting township insurance. The township made the decision to change the insurance. He doesn't get to choose the insurance. He got to choose amongst the plans that were offered. So that's what
I think
we're
that's,
encouraging you to
but
do.
I'm sorry, but I have a problem with not having been notified about the change.
You didn't
I
even
really
notify
do.
us that he was on the insurance. But it doesn't matter what, if we notified you, we have the right.
Yes, it does, because then Len and I could have talked about what could be done rather than him finding out in a doctor's office one day that he wasn't insured.
And I'm sorry that occurred. I didn't even know that he was on the insurance.
That I don't think means that I shouldn't have been informed about a plan to change the office insurance.
I mean, everybody got, was
An
identified
organization
by
has the
insurance
right
people.
to change the insurance whenever they get ready. And I did not know that Leonard was on the insurance because of Diane's departure. We've said this.
Yes,
But on top of
I
that,
know.
okay, we're still dealing with the residue of that. But Leonard was offered insurance and he was on the insurance that the employees are currently on. But he was not satisfied with that insurance is what
Yes.
Gail is trying to say. So he was offered insurance.
I understand
without
that he
insurance.
was, but he had been on a plan that satisfied him and wished to find as comparable coverage to that as he could.
Oh, yes, we understand that.
Well, that was what led to the creation of the EIN, because he, for instance, he was not able to get back on the plan that had been canceled.
Because
Right.
it was
And-
a local government health plan, and when we
Right.
canceled the township, that canceled everything. We can't, one employee.
Yes,
can't
it did.
go back on it.
And that was the crux of the matter, that we had not been, neither of us had been informed that was even in the works, let alone had happened. And my goal is simply to see to it that Leonard, as in my opinion, a valuable employee of the township, excuse me, has satisfactory coverage that suits him, and not be pushed into something that he does not want to do.
And by creating a new EIN, he's not an employee of the township anymore.
Well, he was never an employee of the
He
township.
was never an
He was
employee
paid
of the
by our
township.
EIN.
Right.
And now he is not paid by our EIN. So our contracts with, for instance, Howard Simon are for the township as an entity.
Right.
And when the assessor's office had adopted the township policies, that included the assessor's office.
Right.
Right.
And that, as I said, I do understand that, but I do not have any, I have not received anything from Howard Simon to go forward with. And I mean, I can't, I don't know either. What else can I do? I mean, you presumably had to fill out forms and set up an account, and I don't have any paperwork for it. So I haven't done anything. I mean, I haven't filled anything out, but if they send it to me, I will, of course.
But how are you paying for it?
Because it's not in your budget.
Paying for what?
For an additional.
Well, it may be a problem this year, because when the budget was set up last year, and it was not changed this year because none of this was known at that time. That is, none of the possible extra expenses were known. The amount that we were paying the township monthly or annually was intended to cover the use of third-party services.
Right.
Well, so if Howard Simon is going to require extra money that is not, because now it's not a third-party service, basically, I mean, it's my third-party service.
Right.
But I don't know, I do not know whether there is, I don't have a line item for it because I didn't know I would need one. Depending on what it comes to, it may fit well within the money that is already being paid to the township for assessor's office functions.
I do hope so. Yes.
Then new policy currently exists, 100% of the medical expenses. I'm asking the question is, if it doesn't, then are we in township on the look for the difference? That would be liability I was trying to understand going forward. Is that clear?
Did you hear that, Jan? Sorry if it's hard to hear.
I'm sorry, not a word.
I will repeat. Trustee Moser's question was whether now that he is back on the local government policy, if that covers all of his medical expenses, or if there will still be an amount of out-of-pocket expenses that would be coming out of the budget.
I'm sorry, I couldn't even get all of that.
I think that's the assumption, because it's the
I think, I mean, I intended for his total salary package, as I may not be answering your question, but I'm since I couldn't hear it, but I intended the line item in this year's budget that it covers his salary package to include all of the extras that might be called upon by the insurance.
She did include, she upped that number. Yes.
I think, yes, at
Yes.
least that was my intention was to cover everything that way.
So that instead of coming out of the assessor's budget, now comes out in the township.
It's still coming out of the assessor's budget.
Or that.
What I sign comes out of the assessor's budget. It's
So
hers,
that
yeah.
reimbursement.
Yes. There's a salary and benefits line.
Yeah.
Once we hit the $10,000, the $100,000, I no longer have the authority to sign the checks. Yes. Exactly. Anything else on that? But we would welcome him back during open enrollment, which is in November, I believe. Okay. Before we jump into public comments, I did want, no, actually I'll put that later. Okay, we are online for public comments. League of Women Voters observers do not talk. They observe, so no public. No one's online. Too bad. We have been presented with staff reports from our township administrator, food pantry manager, general assistant administrator, outreach and communications director, and community partnerships coordinator. Is there anything that anyone would like to take from these reports for discussion? Yep, these are great.
I know it's unusual. Can I ask about an item that I didn't? Do you have any update on the event in particular with the asbestos removal? Is that all?
Oh,
done? Is
yeah,
that
that's done.
finished?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for being on top of all that.
Absolutely, and as you saw with the alley work, no more flooding. So
I'll still be keeping an eye on it, but
yes,
that was causing a lot of problems.
Oh my goodness, right. Didn't put it on here. Has anyone met already? I didn't think so. I think that was
No.
why we didn't, right?
No.
Okay, next month we'll have those. We did just get the agency applications in. I know that he wrote the report before that. Just as a reminder, because I did get a couple questions from agencies, having a trustee use an agency as a member of the public, so as a resident, is not considered a conflict of interest. And our conflict of interest policy is online. If anybody else has questions.
It wasn't in, my report because we don't know about it yet. But, there's another, pantry, drive that's, gonna be happening soon too, as I can imagine in some of the other schools, but, I'm in communication with, really, elementary and we had a successful drive last year, and I think we're gonna be doing that again this year for our community service and getting some of our youngest residents kind of into the habit of knowing what the pantry is and giving.
Fabulous. And you, on that note, on the pantry, November 20th will be the holiday, the Thanksgiving turkey giveaway. Always love a trustees to help. Kind of bicep
Monday?
work. Yes.
Mhm.
And that will be at Winnetka Presbyterian, who has their fabulous circle driveway, which has been amazing. So we thank them. Speaking of our religious partners, Congregation Hakafah's big drive for us is coming up for Rosh Hashanah on Yom Kippur. So they are always one of our biggest events. So that is wonderful. Let's save the date, November 20th. On Melanie's report, just wanted to note a couple other dates for your calendars. So we're excited to have a collaboration with the Illinois Treasurer's Office to present about ABLE accounts, which he had presented at Township Officials of Illinois, and I said, why don't you come talk to our residents? Sadly, he won't be in town. He just had babies, twins. So, but his staff will be able to present, and we're going to do that at our place. So bring it to the community who needs it. And are advertising that with all of our developmental disabilities organizations and the local school districts. That's exciting. That is October 4th, 6 p.m. at our place. The wellness fair, she didn't have the date on here, but exciting about the pumpkins. But that'll be October 21st, 10 to 1. It was great last year and so much easier a second time around. Definitely come for that. And that's at the senior center. We will have boosters and flu shots, COVID boosters and flu shots. And then we already mentioned the October 18th agency breakfast. Prior to the agency breakfast?
Yeah.
Probably not.
He hasn't discussed the time.
As we're communicating with those who have submitted their reports, that'll be a good time to say that, but probably 9:30 or 10, not first thing, just to give us time to set up. So I gotta say, but yeah, great. Oh, on bringing from Jean's report about, you might have noticed that we have been lower on using Angel Fund and emergency assistance for medical supplies. With Connie's retiring and closing, that was the less used portion of our giving. We have a new contract. We will be using Mariano's in Northfield. And we were able to get that set up finally, and we're back. It allows us to pay those directly rather than having to give a check, for instance. We pay Mariano's, and we're, so. Yes, we can still call it Bridge the Gap, sure. But it's essentially from the Emergency Assistance and Mutual Fund. Yeah, exactly. Had been dubbed Bridge the Gap for those of you who were or have been around. Anything else on the staff reports? Wonderful.
Our solar panels, hopefully, we'll be getting on this building in the next month and a half. It's been such a long process. I think I'm 4 months in now, 4.5 months. We are in the permitting phase. So hopefully, and our loose ends are tied up in the attic.
Yeah,
Literally, I had one guy come out and look at the attic for insulation, and he has not responded to me, email or call. So I went on to the next people today. So that person will be here on Monday. You know, as I always say, the building just, you know, keeps on giving. So.
And this is the environmental coordinator that, you know, we.
Yeah, Lucy Mellon.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So she helped me with that. She gave me like 4 recommendations. There are some grants that we're not eligible for, because some of them are very specific, but she always looks for them for me,
That's awesome.
just in case we can get one.
Any continuing business? Seeing none. New business, we would have provided you the changes to the personnel policy manual, but they arrived today. So they will come next month. We want to give you plenty of time to review since you know, we only do this every 10 years apparently. So it's got to be good. But there are a number of laws going into effect January 1, so we want so that's our drop dead section. Anything else on that? Great.
For people having issues not being able to hear this owl, I did order an extender for this owl, but it is not compatible with the owl that we have. So Steve and I have been working on that. I had him go downstairs. I got the app on my phone and turned up the volume. I just don't know why people cannot hear anybody from this side. But honestly, this room is too big for this owl after like further research, yes. If it were closed off right here, it would be perfect, but I think the room is just too wide. Mhm.
So the question is, if I sell this one and get it.
We got this one for 1,500. The newest one is like $3,000. So they're not cheap.
No.
And the newer one does support the extender. I do think that it's a worthy investment because of how many meetings we have and how many hybrid meetings we have. If we could sell this one, but right now online, this one goes for like $699. Because we've had it, what, maybe 3 years or so. It's just like every year they put out a new one. So.
And I'm afraid that we're not even allowed to sell things.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure one of, you know, the high school students at like, you know, Binary Heart or something would like to have it, and, you know, the library, they were happy with some of a lot of the other stuff we gave away from the basement. But this room is just too large. I've been in contact with the Owl Labs people. It seemed like a good thing for a while, but even we're not sitting that far away from each other. And we've been testing it out for the past couple of weeks in anticipation that somebody online wouldn't be able to hear us. And I think that that's just the issue.
I will say, so as you all know, we've opened this room to nonprofits who want to use it, and the League of Women Voters had such issues that they're looking for alternative space. So, and I'm sure, you know, the other organizations too, but part of investing in such a nice piece of equipment was, let's make sure people use it. So if it's not working, we might have to cut our losses and invest again.
Yeah.
Sadly. All right. With that said, we're now in line for a motion to adjourn. Is there such a motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we will see you October 10th for the combo Trustees, Board of Trustees meeting, followed by the Decennial Committee. Thank you.